And we are live. It's the Revved Up 906 podcast, a Detroit Pistons podcast to be exact. And I'm Hudson. Before we get into today's recap of Pistons versus Pacers, I want to give a quick reminder that the Revved Up 906 podcast is always growing. And to continue that growth, it comes down to you guys, the viewers and listeners. So make sure to share our podcast. If you know a bunch of people that are fellow Pistons fans on Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram, so on and so forth, in the video below, today's video below, there's a share link. So you can share on any of those platforms. You can scroll to the right and you can see all the platforms you can share on. So make sure if you are a subscriber or not, and you're a fan of Revved Up 906 and want to share that with your friends, make sure to do so, because that is only going to help and continue our growth. And we appreciate you guys, the listeners and viewers. So thank you for doing that. And thank you for liking and subscribing. Let's get into today's Revved Up recap of Pistons versus Pacers. That final score was 121 to 115 in the Pacers' favor. And to get this recap started, it's going to be a little negative. And then we will eventually get to the positive. To start with the negative issues is the Pistons defense tonight was so soft. There were so many opportunities where the Pistons offensively were not struggling. We saw guys like Killian Hayes, Isaiah Livers, James Wiseman strive at the offensive end. But then defensively, we weren't able to get stops in the end to be able to make runs and to get the lead. So the Pistons defense needs to start to show the defense rather, find a rhythm and to be able to show us, the fans, the viewers, that they can get stops consistently. And we were hoping James Wiseman would be the guy that would get those stops for the Pistons, but we just haven't seen that quite yet. And I think that's just a chemistry thing. That's just a vocal thing where they need to continue to communicate. And I hope that's one thing that Dwayne Casey is pushing in the locker room is communication, not just offensively, but defensively, because we are showing that our offense can find a rhythm, that our offense can put together streaks of great, consistent play. But our defense has looked so soft as of recent. And that's a reason why we are on an 11-game losing streak. 11 games, people, double digits. That's just not going to cut it. Trust me, I understand. The Pistons losing is only getting them one step closer to the man, the myth, the legend, Victor Wembanyama. I understand. But we want to see growth from this Pistons team throughout the season. And we are post All-Star break now, people. We want to start to see the Pistons gain that chemistry. And right now, in these close game losses, each and every night, there are 1 to 2 guys, and they're typically different guys each night that we can be positive about. And I'll get into our guys from tonight, but we want to see the Pistons as a team, as a whole, as a 12-man roster, find chemistry and show that, okay, these guys are pulling it together. But an 11-game losing streak, come on, that hurts. As a fan, it's tough to watch, but also for the team, I mean, guys like Killian Hayes, Isaiah Stewart, even Isaiah Livers, they're going on a couple seasons now where they're dealing with a lot of losing. We want to be able to finish these seasons and finish it on a positive note. And right now, it's really tough to find those positives. One more thing for the negative department. I hate to be negative, but since Ryan isn't here, I can kind of, make it my own. I got to get a little negative and then we'll get into the positive. But rebounding wise, we were out rebounded by 17. I get it. Some nights you're going to get out rebounded in the double digits. I know. But 17 pushing 20 rebounds, you do not want to get out rebounded like that. We saw Marvin Bagley in the third quarter leave the game with ankle soreness. So that definitely is a factor to those 17 rebounds. I think naturally, if he was playing the rest of that fourth quarter, that he would have racked up a couple rebounds here and there. But James Wiseman can't be the only guy that does the rebounding for us. He had 16 points, 9 rebounds. Marvin Bagley also started, only had 5 rebounds. Yes, he left in the middle of the third quarter, but we kind of want him to be pushing double digits by the time the third quarter rolls around. Rodney McGruder, only four rebounds. Killian Hayes, though, at the point guard position, finished with 6 rebounds. Now, I know Rodney McGruder isn't the typical guy that's starting for us. We're dealing a lot with injuries right now, but his main focus has to be those little things. And in today's NBA, rebounding is one of those little things that you can't just ignore. You have to make sure that you put an emphasis on rebounding, because a game like tonight, okay, I know the Pacers are a solid team. Okay, I get it. But they didn't have Tyrese Halliburton. They didn't have Benedict Mathurin. They didn't have some of these top guys for them. Guys like Isaiah Jackson was tearing us up. And I'm not cool with that. Isaiah Jackson should not be putting up the numbers he put up. He put up tonight 19 points, 11 rebounds, double-double. Okay, how do we let that happen when we just newly acquired a guy like James Wiseman? James Wiseman, in the same draft Isaiah Jackson got drafted in, was the first pick. Isaiah Jackson was the 21st. We need to see James Wiseman add a little bit more to not just our defense, which is still struggling, but also that rebounding category. I want to see him getting double digits. Just the game previous, he had 13. I want to continue to see him pushing those double-digit numbers in the rebounding category. Some other notable rebounders: Jalen Duren coming off the bench, 11 rebounds. He finished with 16 points. So after Jalen Duren coming back from injury, kind of didn't necessarily put up a goose egg, but not necessarily what we want to see from him. We heard a quote from Dwayne Casey saying that Jalen Duren was very foggy in his game coming back. So really nice to see him with 16 points and 11 rebounds on 20 minutes. I mean, that's very efficient. In those 20 minutes, he was all over the ball. Another thing I want to mention about Jalen Duren is Greg Kelser and George Blaha made mention of it at Volley Sports during the broadcast. His footwork has been just so, people, I know I remind you guys a lot, but he is 19 years old. Okay. And his footwork is better than Andre Drummond's was like 6 seasons in with the Detroit Pistons. His footwork is terrific. We saw him take advantage of a weak, I'm not going to call Isaiah Jackson a weak defender because we know he can get his blocks in, but Jalen Duren should be schooling Isaiah Jackson. I'm just saying he should be. He's highly touted. He's got his accolades, and Jalen Duren proved so that he can put the works in the paint. So I love to see that from Jalen Duren, especially after like a slow game back coming off an injury. Now, let's get into some of the positives here. The Pistons started the third quarter with an 11-2 run against the Pacers. They ended up regaining the lead by 2, and then they lost it again. That's going to happen. We see that so frequently with the Pistons. It seems to me that the Detroit Pistons are one of the best third quarter teams ever. And that's why I don't like people blaming Dwayne Casey for the issues that the Pistons are having. Because what are the Pistons coming out of in the third quarter? They're coming off a 12-minute break for halftime. And who's in there preaching to them? Rex Galaney and Dwayne Casey. And I love those two guys together. I think they pair up really well. Rex Galaney's a little bit more vocal. Dwayne Casey's the wiser, older guy that's been around the NBA forever, played in the NBA. And they come out after getting coached up in the halftime break. And then they come out in the third and they pull it together. And then the fourth quarter rolls around and we kind of fall apart. That's going to happen. I understand. But what the Pistons are showing with playing so well in the third quarter is that they know how to take care of a game plan and make sure that they're executing what the coaching staff is asking of them. So yes, we're on an 11 game losing streak. I know it's hard to watch, but third quarter is such a crucial period in a 4-quarter game because they are showing that they can get coached and take a game plan and execute it Now we just need to work on like keeping them focused the last quarter in the fourth. Once we kind of find out what those issues are in the fourth quarter, then we can move on and start getting some wins here, because we know we got a good bench. We're missing Hamidou Diallo due to some injuries. Alec Burks is out for this season, which is so unfortunate. Love watching him play. But I think a game like tonight against the Pacers, I think if we have Hamidou, we have Alec Burks, I think that we win this game. Hamidou Diallo showing that he can give us 16 points every night off the bench, which is so great to see. Everybody knows I'm a big Alec Burks guy. But when you're missing that 15 points is very crucial because they are coming at the most opportune times. Our starters have shown that they're a little bit on the younger side. Killian Hayes, James Wiseman, Isaiah Livers are starters that have a lot of talent but are a little bit more inconsistent. Need that consistency off the bench from a guy like Hamidou, who's going to go out and give you those 16 points when maybe we fell a little bit short in the first quarter. And of course, Alec Burks, absolutely great score and so crucial for the Detroit Pistons. Something that I wanted to mention was Killian Hayes. I mean, he has had an up and down season, more down than up, if we're being honest. But he started out the season very solid. The month of December, he averaged like 20 points and like 8 assists. I mean, he had a great month of December. January 15th, I think, rolls around the Paris game. Big game for him against the Chicago Bulls in his home country with his family watching at the game. And he blows it. And ever since, honestly, he's really struggled and very inconsistent. I don't think he's had a 20-point game in a long, long time. But tonight, 17 points, 13 assists, 6 rebounds, 7 of 17 shooting on 36 minutes. Now, the point I want to make about Killian Hayes ending with 13 assists is he had 9 of them in the third quarter. What a consistent factor was with all 9 of those assists were his court vision. And why his court vision is so crucial in today's NBA is because what we saw that was so successful was cutting with a purpose. Isaiah Livers and 97. I haven't been able to get his last name down yet, so I'm just going to let it be. I got to practice it a little bit more. But 97 playing very well off the bench. Isaiah Livers, 97. They're cutting to the basket, and there Killian is passing them the ball and striking. We saw alley-oop to Isaiah Livers, another layup. So a lot of those assists was Killian's court vision. Sorry. Killian's court vision and being able to complete those cutter passes, which were just so crucial to our offense and why we eventually regained the lead in the third quarter. So I'm not sure if it's a coaching thing. I'm always questioning coaching, especially on a young team. But I think what the coaching staff really needs to push with this young team is moving with a purpose. We see so often our offense become stagnant and in inopportune times when we aren't able to get stops and a team goes on a 7-0 run. Well, our offense goes stagnant. Nobody's moving. Nobody's doing much of anything. Everyone just kind of expects Killian to make something happen, it seems. But it's not a recipe for success. And what we want to see as fans is the Pistons players starting to move with a purpose, starting to show that everything they do on every movement, every step, maybe that's a little dramatic, but every step be with a purpose and to show that, and it showed in tonight's game that it works, that cutting to the basket with a purpose in opportune times, Killian can get you the ball, guys. Killian has a killer pass. I mean, the dude should have been a quarterback at Auburn or something, man. I mean, the dude's got an arm and he can complete those hard passes that not everybody can. So I want to see the Pistons doing these off-ball cuts, and I want to see the offense continue to move. And because that's just at times in this season, we just have not seen that. I'm going to take a quick water break, quick. I don't know if people notice, but in most recaps when Ryan's talking, I'm like guzzling water because my throat gets so dry. So thank you for bearing with me. But yeah, so fouls too, people. You know, almost every night the Pistons are struggling with fouls. It's always a consistent factor with a young team that is a little bit more springy than most. Always continue to struggle. The Pacers didn't really take advantage at the free throw line. They shot 76%. So I think that's why another reason why the game was as close as it was at the end as far as final score. The Pacers shot 26 of 34 from the free throw line. And then the Pistons again kind of struggled with 66% from the free throw line, 18 of 27. But the Pistons actually had more assists on tonight's game than the Pacers. The Pacers finished with 24 to the Pistons 25. And then steals wise, the Pistons were matched with the Pacers with 7 on both teams. As far as not accounting fouls as turnovers, the Pistons only finished with 12. I like that. I think if they're hovering around 12, not including fouls, now keep that in mind. If they're hovering around 12, that's good for them, honestly, because sometimes we're looking at this box score during recaps and we're seeing 23. You know what I mean? So it's like 12 for the Pistons. I'll take it. And the Pacers actually had more with 14. So, yeah, turnovers watching the game, other than since we're excluding fouls, it wasn't a kind of game where you're watching it and you're like, oh, they just don't have any control under the ball. It wasn't that kind of game. The kind of game where they just naturally gathered up 12. It wasn't like there was a specific time in the second quarter, for example, where the Pistons had like 3 bad turnovers in a row. So that's kind of a good thing to see that turnovers weren't necessarily the reason why we lost tonight's game. Just a couple housekeeping things as far as statistics. The Pistons shot 45.7% from the field. That's all right for them. Sometimes we look at the box score and it's around 35. So I'll take that. And then the Pacers actually were pretty cut even with the Pistons with 46.2%. And then from the 3-point line, the Pacers were atrocious, shooting 25%, 9 of 35 from the 3-point line. Terrible. And then the Pistons were 32.4% from the 3-point line, 11 of 34. So yeah, it really comes down to rebounding tonight and just kind of sloppy defense. Just not really putting an effort on the defensive end. I think that's really what tonight's game comes down to. It's not necessarily fouls. It's not necessarily bad shooting. Our offense didn't look terrible. Yes, we struggled from the 3-point line, but without having Alec Burks, a key shooter, and Bojan, that's going to happen. Those are the 2 guys that shoot the most threes and shoot the most high percentage. So that's going to happen when you're dealing with injuries with the way we were. So in case you didn't watch tonight's game, Jaden Ivey, Bojan Bogdanovic, Alec Burks, Hamidou Diallo, all out for injury, all day to day. Also Isaiah Stewart, sorry. But yeah, so tonight's game was a fun game. It was tough to watch at points, but man, that third quarter was great. Killian Hayes with 9 assists. I mean, he's been playing great. It's great to see him tonight, rather. He played great. It was nice to see him kind of gather momentum. So if there's a takeaway from tonight's game, it's Killian Hayes' solid play. I mean, I was really happy with the way he looked. He seemed confident. A lot of nights he's shooting floaters, as you guys may know, and sometimes they're hit or miss. More than not, they're typically going to be a miss. Tonight, he was knocking those down. So as a Pistons fan, it's really nice to see him starting to knock down those floaters a little bit more because he's a confidence guy. We've talked about that so much on the pod that Killian really has the skill. It's being calm, being present, and not letting the nerves take over. He's a big nerves guy. So tonight, playing against a smaller market team in his home spot, Little Caesars Arena, LCA, in the 3-1-3, was able to kind of gather himself and have a great game. And that's so good to see. Also, another really nice thing to see as a Pistons fan is Killian was playing very well with James Wiseman. They're starting to find a little bit of a rhythm offensively, it seems. And I said when we picked up James Wiseman, we really want to see how he deals with Killian, because that's really going to be a precursor of how Cade Cunningham plays with James Wiseman. Yes, Killian isn't the guy that Cade is, not saying that, but they both have the best passing ability on the team, on the Pistons. So we really want to see, okay, Killian and James are playing well together in the starting lineup. We see them kind of find a groove. Well, that's just a precursor of what we're going to see when Cade Cunningham comes back. And also, it can be discouraging. I mean, 11-game winning streak is tough to watch as a Pistons fan. I know, I understand. I'm right there with you guys. But just know, Cade Cunningham is coming back. The Batman, the Cade Man is coming back. So thank you guys for watching today's Revved Up recap of Pistons versus Pacers. That final score, once again, was 121-115. Make sure to like and subscribe. And then also, if you like this sweatshirt, it's actually for sale. So in the link below, there will be a link to this sweatshirt. Revved Up 906 when you're out and about getting the groceries, or when you're going to the gym, getting your pump on. You gotta Revved Up 906. I mean, look at this logo. Ryan's so clean with the designs. And shout out Grind Clothing Co. Ryan's the owner. He's a great guy. And go support local Michigan apparel. And we will see you guys in the next Revved Up recap. Peace.